Welcome to the Performance Room of SFT Golf Academy 360 Degrees, powered by AI Golf Chat. Today we're breaking down one of the most misunderstood decisions in the short game.
And it's one of those decisions that often feels personal, doesn't it?
It really does. Looking at the data we have on the table, I feel like it's a direct attack on my favorite shot.
Well, it feels personal because we're really attacking the ego. We're talking about a decision that costs ambitious amateur strokes every single weekend.
And it's all for what? For a shot that looks good.
Exactly. It's driven by aesthetics rather than a respect for physics.
Okay, let's set the scene for everyone just so we're all on the same page. We're talking about the 30-meter paradox. You're 30 meters from the flag. You're in the fairway, perfect lie, like a carpet. And there are no obstacles, no bunkers, no water, nothing. Just a clear runway to the green.
And this is the moment of truth. This is where the conflict begins. The aesthetic preference, what looks cool, versus the statistical reality.
The reality of what actually gets the ball close to the hole.
Right. Do you grab that 60-degree wedge, the high-lofted club, or do you pull out an 8-iron, maybe even a 7-iron, and play it along the ground?
And that's the thing. Most players I coach, and if I'm being honest, myself included, the instinct is the wedge. We want to see the ball go up.
You want to see it check.
Yes. There's something so satisfying about hitting that little nippy one-hop and stop shot.
Yeah.
It feels pro.
It feels pro, but does it score pro? That's the real question we're asking today.
And you're arguing it doesn't.
I'm arguing, and the data backs this up, that rolling the ball in this scenario is not just a stylistic choice. It's a method of variance reduction.
Variance reduction. So you're simplifying the problem.
We're taking a three-dimensional problem.
Okay, so that's distance, height, and spin.
Exactly. And we're converting it into a much simpler two-dimensional problem.
Which is just line and speed.
Just line and speed, like a long putt.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's unpack this. We've got research here on spin mechanics, turf interaction, even biomechanics. Where do we start? Why is the wedge inherently riskier?
It goes deeper than just being harder to hit. We have to start with the physics of the collision itself. We need to talk about a concept called spin loft.
Spin loft. Okay, that sounds technical. Break it down for us.
It's actually pretty simple. Spin loft is just the angle between where the club face is pointing at impact, the dynamic loft, and the direction the club head is actually traveling, the attack angle.
So it's the difference between those two angles.
Exactly. Imagine a boxing match.
I'm listening.
If you punch straight through a target, that's a direct blow, you get maximum energy transfer. That's a low spin loft.
Okay.
Now imagine a glancing blow, like a hook that just grazes the cheek. The fist is moving one way, but it's sliding across the contact point. That's high spin loft.
And the wedge is the glancing blow.
Precisely. A sand wedge has a massive amount of loft, so you create a very high spin loft. And because of that glancing nature, the smash factor, which is just a measure of energy transfer, it drops significantly.
How low are we talking?
For a typical wedge shot like this, you're looking at a smash factor around 1.25, sometimes even lower.
So the ball just doesn't jump off the face. It feels soft.
Exactly. It feels dead. And here's the trap for the amateur golfer. If the efficiency is low and the ball feels dead, what does your brain tell your body it needs to do to make it go 30 meters?
Swing harder. I've got to give it some
You
juice.
have to add more speed, more kinetic energy. And I think we all know what happens when you try to add speed to a delicate partial shot.
Oh, absolutely. Things get scary. That's when the twitch happens. The hands get all active.
That's the crux of it. Higher speed equals higher variance. Now compare that to an 8-iron.
Lower loft.
Much lower loft. It's a direct blow. Higher smash factor. You barely have to move the club to make the ball go 30 meters. It's less effort, less speed.
And less variant.
And far less variance.
Okay, so I'm making it harder on myself by choosing the wedge because it forces me to swing faster. But what about the spin? The whole reason I want the wedge is for control, for it to stop.
But that's the illusion of control. The biggest variable for amateurs is that sometimes the wedge grabs and sometimes it releases and just rolls off the back of the green.
That's not just a feeling, is it?
Not at all. The radar data is very clear on this. For a partial wedge shot, the spin rates are incredibly volatile. We see ranges anywhere from 4,000 to 7,000 RPM on a 30-meter shot.
Wow. 3,000 RPM of difference.
Yeah.
That completely changes the rollout.
It changes everything. And it's dependent on Tiny friction variables you can't even see. A little bit of morning dew on the ball.
Or a tiny piece of grass between the grooves.
Exactly. Or did you catch it just one groove too high on the face? All these things create massive spin differences. So if you hit one at 4,000 RPM,
It's going to release. It'll run out.
and if you catch it perfectly clean and get 7,000 RPM,
It checks up instantly.
you're basically playing a guessing game with friction. Unless you have elite professional level consistency, you can't perfectly predict that reaction.
But the iron,
A mid-iron, like an 8-iron, produces consistent low spin. We're talking under 1,000 RPM on these little shots. So it completely eliminates the variable of the ball checking up.
so it just becomes a math equation.
It's just gravity and green speed. It's predictable.
I do like predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's shift from physics to the body. You mentioned biomechanics. To me, the biggest difference between a pitch and a bump and run is just how it feels.
How so?
The pitch feels athletic, fluid. The bump and run, it feels rigid, almost cramped.
And that rigidity is a good thing. We need to contrast what we call the pitching kinetic chain with the putting paradigm.
Okay, walk us through the pitching chain. Why is it so hard to get right?
Well, a 30-meter pitch shot is a really complex motor task. Think about all the moving parts. You need wrist hinge to create that speed we talked about.
Right.
You need a slightly wider stance for stability. And crucially, you need perfect timing of your weight transfer, your pressure shift, to control the low point of the swing arc.
And that low point control is everything. Shift your weight too late, you hit it fat. Too early, you thin it.
Precisely. You're managing a shifting center of gravity while trying to deliver a high-speed club head to a millimeter-perfect spot on the turf. It's a big ask.
Contrast that with the bump and run.
The bump and run uses what we call a stiff lever system. The stance is narrow, feet just inches apart. Your weight is biased heavily forward, maybe 70% on the lead foot.
And it stays there. There's no shift.
It stays there. There is no transfer. We've seen biomechanical studies that look at center of pressure, or CP, data.
Okay, what does this CP data tell us?
Well, the technical jargon is that elite players show minimal CP excursion along the antero-posterior axis.
Okay, and in English?
It means they don't rock the boat. They don't sway. Antero-posterior just means front to back. The data shows that for a bump and run, the best players are statues. Their balance is rock solid.
So stability equals strike consistency.
Yes. And when you use that putting style motion with an 8-iron, you're driving the motion with your shoulders. The wrists are passive. This eliminates one of the most common flaws we see in the amateur game.
The dreaded chicken wing.
The chicken wing. The lead elbow buckles and pulls apart.
I see it constantly. Why does the wedge seem to cause that so often?
It happens because the pivot stalls. Amateurs get a little scared of the speed they're creating with a wedge, so their body stops rotating, but the club still has momentum.
So the arm has to fold to make room.
The arm has to fold, the lead arm breaks down, the chicken wing happens, and the whole radius of your swing changes. That leads directly to those thin or fat shots. With the shoulder-driven iron stroke, that risk is almost zero.
Because you're just rocking your shoulders. It's a much simpler, shorter motion.
It's basically a putt.
Okay, so we have physics saying the wedge is risky, biomechanics saying it's complex. Let's talk about the worst-case scenario, because we coach humans, not robots. What happens under pressure when we miss?
This is my favorite part. This is error tolerance. It's
Yeah.
about score preservation. We have to look at the geometry of the miss.
The disaster outcome.
Let's start with the fat miss, hitting the ground before the ball. With a wedge, you have a very sharp leading edge. It's designed to slide under the ball, but if you hit the ground 2 inches behind it,
It digs. It's a
Yeah.
shovel. I've done this. The divot goes farther than the ball.
it digs. You lose a massive amount of energy into the ground. The ball travels, 50% of the distance? You're still 15 meters short of the green. You failed the shot.
And it feels awful. Now, the same fat miss with an 8-iron?
The 8-iron has a flatter, wider sole. And because you're using a putting motion, you have a much shallower angle of attack. You're not coming down steeply on it.
So it doesn't dig.
It creates a skid effect. The club bounces or slides across the grass. You still make contact. And because there's more mass behind the ball, it retains most of its momentum.
So a fat 8-iron might still get on the green.
It almost always gets on the green, maybe 90% of the intended distance. It's a putt for par instead of another chip.
That is a massive, massive difference. What about the other miss? The thin one, the blade.
That's the one that really scares people. A bladed wedge. Remember, you're swinging it with high speed.
It's a missile. It's just gone.
It's the skull shot. It flies over the green, into the back bunker, maybe out of bounds. It's a double bogey waiting to happen.
But the 8-iron,
You're using a low-speed putting-like stroke. If you thin an 8-iron, you're just hitting the equator of the ball with very little energy.
So it stays low.
It stays on the ground, it just rolls. And because you didn't swing hard, it usually rolls out to a very predictable distance. It might go a little long, maybe to the back fringe, but it's safe, it's on the green.
So both the fat and the thin miss with the ground-based approach. They both end up with the ball on the putting surface. That's an incredible insurance policy.
It's the ultimate insurance, and this all leads to the statistical concept of shot dispersion.
The pattern of where your shots end up.
Exactly. Imagine a rectangle around the hole. For a lofted pitch, that rectangle is large, both long and short because of spin variance, and left and right. With the bump and run, that dispersion rectangle shrinks dramatically.
I saw a stat in our notes that was shocking.
Ah.
For a 15 handicap golfer, using this approach saves about 0.17 strokes per attempt compared to a 60-degree wedge.
And 0.17 strokes doesn't sound like a lot, right? People hear that and they just shrug it off.
Yeah, it sounds like a rounding error.
But apply that over a season. You face the shot 3 times a round. That's half a shot per round. Over a year of golf, that's the difference between being a 15 handicap and a 12. It's pure mathematical variance reduction.
Wait, I'm sold on the why. So if our listeners are sold, how do they actually do this? You can't just guess how far it's going to roll. You need a system.
You need a ratio system. This is how you calibrate. You have to understand the carry-to-roll ratio for each club on a medium-speed green.
Okay, let's make this practical. I'll name a club, you give me the ratio.
Let's do it.
Let's start with a sand wedge, just for a baseline.
Sand wedge or lob wedge, you're looking at a 1-to-1 ratio. So you fly it 50% of the way, it rolls 50%.
So for our 30-meter shot, I have to fly it 15 meters onto the green. That's a long way in the air.
It is. A lot can go wrong in 15 meters of flight.
Okay, pitching wedge.
The ratio shifts. It's closer to 1 to 1.5, 1 part air, 1.5 parts ground.
Now for the money clubs. Let's go with an 8-iron.
The 8-iron is approximately 1 to 2.5. Land at 1 part, it will roll 2.5 parts.
And if we go even lower, like a 6 or 7-iron?
Now you're in the 1 to 3.5 ratio territory.
So let's apply that to our 30-meter shot. This is where it gets really interesting. If I have a 7-iron, I don't even have to land it near the hole.
Not at all. With that 1 to 3.5 ratio, you only need to carry the ball, what, 6 or 7 meters?
6 meters? That's nothing. I could toss it underhand 6 meters.
Exactly. You're just landing the ball onto the fringe or barely on the green, call it 20% of the total distance, and the ball rolls the other 80% like a putt.
That completely changes the mental picture. Instead of staring at a flag 30 meters away, which looks tiny.
You're staring at a landing spot that's right in front of you. It's infinitely easier to hit a target 6 meters away than one 15 or 20 meters away. You're making the world smaller.
It almost feels like cheating. Like you're bypassing the hard part.
You are. You're bypassing the aerial risk.
Now, we have to have an exception clause here. We're not telling people to never use a wedge again.
Absolutely not. Please, don't putt from the bunker. The decision-making hierarchy should be simple. Step 1, can I putt it? Yes, putt it.
Even from off the green.
If the fringe is smooth, absolutely. Step 2, if I can't putt, can I chip it with an iron? If yes, do that. And only if the answer to both is no, do you move to step 3.
The pitch with a wedge.
Right. So what forces you to step 3?
Obstacles. A bunker in the way.
A bunker, heavy rough, or a downhill lie where the ball just won't stop rolling with an iron. And the other big one is limited green depth.
Yeah, if the pin is cut tight to the front edge.
If you only have 3 meters of green to work with, you need height. But in our original scenario, 30 meters, clear path, none of those exceptions apply.
I want to touch on the mental game before we wrap up. You mentioned cognitive load. That feels huge for the competitive player.
It's massive. Your brain is a processor. Standing over a wedge, it's calculating dozens of variables. How hard do I swing? Will it spin? Is the lie tight? What about the wind?
It's just noisy in your head.
It's noisy. And that noise leads to tension. When you grab an 8-iron, you reduce the calculation to just 2 things.
Line and speed.
Just line and speed. The same mental process as a long putt. You've removed the anxiety of contact and the anxiety of spin. You've simplified the cast.
And under pressure, simplification is everything.
It's the ultimate performance enhancer. The brain craves certainty. The ground gives you certainty. The air gives you mystery.
The ground gives you certainty.
Yeah, I like that.
So let's bring this all together. The physics, the biomechanics, the stats. It all points one way.
The synthesis is clear. 30 meters out, clear path. The 8-iron should be your default play. It shouldn't be the backup plan. It's plan A.
It's funny. We see the pros do this, But amateurs still want to hit the sexy shot.
They see the highlight reel flop shots, but they don't see the other 71 shots that week. If you watch closely, especially when the pressure is highest, you see them using putters from off the green, you see them bump hybrids through the fringe.
Because at that level, it's not about how it looks, it's just about proximity.
Proximity is king. They have the skill to spin a wedge, but they choose the ground game because it guarantees a putt for the next shot. They're just playing the percentages.
It really makes you think, why would a course architect ever give you that option if it's so much easier?
Well, that's the strategic battle, isn't it? They know the ground game is lower risk, so they defend the course by forcing you into the air. They put bunkers right in front. They elevate greens. They're trying to beat you into that high variance wedge shot.
So when they give you an opening, a clear runway, you have to take it.
You have to take it. Don't volunteer for difficulty.
This has been a fantastic deep dive. I think a lot of golfers are going to look at their 7-iron a little differently now.
It really can take the stress out of the short game.
Remember, you're converting a 3D problem into a 2D problem. Keep it simple.
And keep it on the ground.
Train smarter. Think clearer. Reduce risk.